Hi, so while I'm up here waiting for the sun, I'm gonna make my way up Rico Spur and then come down another trail. I had a few people ask me to share some more ghost stories. It is known as the Valley of the Ghosts. So I'm gonna do that. So when I first arrived here in 2016, my very first time in Sandon was July 4th, 2016. And that's a whole other story, but I fell in love with Sandon and I knew I was going to live here. So I ended up that night, the evening of July 4th, 2016, I went down the KNS, so I went down that way. I hiked until I got to just before the Altoona, basically where you can't go with a off-road vehicle, and I set up my tent because it was starting to sprinkle. I thought, you know what? I don't want to get caught in a downpour. So I set up my tent under the cedar tree just off to the edge of the KNS rail grade. And I fell asleep without a problem. I had a lovely creek nearby I could hear. Not Carpenter Creek, but another tributary creek. So I ended up having a great sleep, and then I got woken up by this vibration on the ground. Like, I mean, literal vibration on the ground. It was like boom, 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 boom. And at first I'm like, that sounds like hoof prints. I'm like, no way. I'm like, what is outside my tent? And of course I was used to having wildlife encounters. And so I thought, okay, well, that sounds, maybe it's elk or something. I don't know. Well, I open up my tent cover. It's raining a bit. And I have my light out there. There's nothing. I mean, nothing. And you could smell elk. Like, if you've been out in nature long enough, they have a very distinct odor. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really weird. There's nothing here. And this went on for quite a few hours. And it literally felt like vibration, like a stampede running past my tent. I was like, okay, what the heck is going on? So I gotta put that in my memory bank. And after a while, I finally I asked how. I'm like, out of curiosity, this is what happened to me. Why do you think that would have happened? Like, what happened in Sandon's history that would have caused a stampede of horses or mules or whatever to go down the KNS track? And all of a sudden he's like, well, there was the fire of 1910. So I'm going to let Hal continue that story. So I think that I was experiencing the ghost horses from running from the fire of 1910.
About the massive 1910 wildfire that burned from Roseberry on Slocan Lake virtually right to the doorstep of Caslow. And of course, as it roared up through these side valleys, it also wanted to burn everything above it. In Sandon's case, it stopped about 1.5 miles short of the city of Sandon and spared it. It was one of the times when Sandon didn't burn. And the reason for that was because there were 3 sawmills here in the early years. They had cut virtually every stick of timber that was within reach of what a horse or a mule could skid into the sawmills. A lot of it done at this time of year when they had the advantage of snow to skid the wood on. And so there was nothing to burn. Once the fire got to the limit of where they had cut down here, just beyond the cemetery, the fire ran out of fuel and didn't come up here and burn up Sandon. But it wasn't the same on the pass over to Caslow. The communities along that route were entirely burned out. In fact, they were burned to a crisp, and very little was left standing in its path. The fire also would have burned Caslow, but for the same reasons as Sandon, it didn't, because in Caslow they had cut virtually all of the timber around the community and from some distance around it, and the fire just petered out before it got right into the community itself. So So those are the realities of forest fires, and of course today we're in a much more dangerous situation here because the forests have been growing back for a century, and as you can see, heavy forest everywhere. Trees grow here. No matter what, you couldn't deter them. And a lot of people that visit here just think that Sandon has never been logged, which just because it looks so natural. But that's certainly not the truth. Every tree you see in here from this point is only a century old at most. And back when Sandon was first settled, there was very little greenery here. And one of my ancestors, when he was still alive, he was in his 90s when I was a kid, and he described this as being the most barren, burned out place on the planet. And he said it was just there was nothing green here. He said even if a blade of grass tried to grow, a horse or a mule would nip it off and it was gone. But look at the old photos and you see that the trees were all used. Where did they go? The timber largely went into the mines to provide support in the mines. But of course, most everything else was built of wood in those years. Vast bulk of Sandon was built of wood. Railroads used tons of it. It was one of the miners' best resources. And contrary to myth that evolves from the central U.S., miners and prospectors didn't deliberately burn the forests here. That's just a myth. The wood was one of their greatest resources and absolutely necessary to everything that they did and that they built. And it's not to say that there weren't accidental fires or perhaps arson that we see today, but the wood was their friend, not their enemy. And so, anyways, that's where it went. That's what happened in that big fire. If you have a chance to see some of the photos taken after 1910, it just looks like the apocalypse here within the area, but not here. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Hal. If you guys have any questions about this story, please shoot them in the comments below, okay?
But be nice.
Yeah, be nice. And you guys are. Thank you so much, you guys. Thanks for your support. Thanks for following. Okay, till next time. Bye.